Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars on what's gonna be a miserably hot Florida. I don't even know what the hell day it is. I think it's Tuesday. And, the day started off all right. Temperatures probably in the low 70s. Humidity, present, but not horrific. But it's only going to get worse from there. And I'm not making it up this time. You can see from this little graphic from the local weather company, that it is just, this is, what do we got, April 1st? Today is April Fool's Day. It should be a little bit chillier than it is right now in southern Florida. And even if the northerners are down here, they're happy, they're chipper, they like the heat. I don't. And again, that's really why I'm going to move up there to North Carolina soon. It's certainly for the summer months, because I just can't take it anymore. And I'm still working on closing the southern headquarters here and starting the move. This is the big month for that. I'm going to start liquidating. Well, that's been going on, but I'm going to liquidate, everything that remains and close up the shop and open one up there. It is a long and miserable process, but it's going to happen. I'm going to be documenting some of it over on X. And, look, quit with your politics, man. I have been on Twitter for years, okay? Years. Long before it was any kind of political statement, other than maybe the opposite, then, X came along and Musk bought it, and I just stayed because I friggin' hate Facebook. Hate it. Never really liked it. Never been good at it. Reddit is a joke. I mean, it's full of retarded snowflakes. So I had always ended up on Twitter, and that's where I stayed. So I don't want to hear any crap about, you're over on X, you're a Nazi. All right, well, then fine. I guess that is what I am. But I'm staying there because that's where I've been, and I like it. So if you want to come over and see some Curious Car stuff, you can. I'll put a link to it in the description. Very quickly, before I get into this car, I'll give you a little bit more Chris news. And I know I obsess over Chris, and there's a reason for that, because I tell you what, man, if only I could course through life the way that Chris does. First of all, if I had 11% of his ego, just 11%, which I would consider to be the healthy and normal human amount, I feel I could have accomplished much more. Number two, the guy has no job at all right now, none. His wife supports him, and he, feels entitled. His only job is picking up his child from school, and he fails at that miserably most of the time. So I just find him an absolutely fascinating character. And he is, again, morally, ethically, in every other way, the worst human that I have ever met. For instance, he was supposed to help Brandon, the paint guy, the guy who paints for me. He had an old blown-up Chevy Cobalt SS that he was going to sell to some Cuban guy from Miami who's going to come over for it Sunday. Chris promised he would be there to do it. Well, Brandon calls him Saturday and says, "Hey, Chris, it's coming. The guy's going to come." Yeah, no, turns out I have an emergency pedicure scheduled. And that turned out to be true. So Chris could not make the thing that he promised Brandon to do because he had to go get a pedicure. And then he posted pictures of his feet, which were disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And then I had to give up my Sunday to help Brandon out, to come over and do what Chris has already promised to do. And that's just absolutely the kind of shit that makes me crazy. Chris also, he has this thing where he wants to fleece old ladies. I guess, they had some sort of garage sale at his, wherever the hell he lives, some kind of condo thing where all the people bring out their tawdry wares, and all the old ladies brought out their, old teapots and shit. So, Chris went before the thing really took off and started telling them how terrible their items were, but, he would take them for a greatly reduced price, which he did. And then he photographed them and sent them to our group text without really thinking that, hey, if I take a picture of a shiny object, I probably shouldn't be naked or shirtless or otherwise disgusting, because the reflection is going to come out. And that's what happened. And you can see that here in these photos. And I mean, again, I know that I rail about Chris every time, every video, but I'm telling you, there's a reason for it. He just drives me absolutely batshit, and I just wish that I could go through life with some degree of the luck that he has gone through life with. So undeserving, so undeserving. My snowflake nephew called me last night, and he needed money. And I think this is funny because he's part of like the Young Socialist Club or something, Young Gays for Christ, whatever it is, that he's a part of. And I'm thinking, man, why do I need to support the socialists? He said he wanted to go out drinking with them. Well, man, I know you don't own the means of production or anything, but couldn't you guys come up with a lemonade stand or a car wash or something, So here I am. Now I am the guy supporting, a communist club in a town far away from me. And anyway, so I helped him out, and hopefully he got a good drunk on, and, him and the communists had a lot of fun. But anyway, look, this is going to be a very quick review for a variety of reasons, one of which is there just isn't that much information out there about this car, other than the very basics. But I'll give you what I know and what I learned about it and what I kind of already knew. They're a mix, you go through life and you try to learn as much as you can. First of all, generally speaking, the wagon was the American family car. I mean, you look at this thing and you think, wow, Ward Cleaver, you think about 50s TV show. This is what men drove. And eventually, of course, it got taken over by SUVs, which I mostly blame women for, I mean, you have this diminutive 5'2", 118-pound blonde woman, and if she doesn't look like some kind of a wildlife photographer in a retarded SUV with driving lights all over it, she's just not happy. And that's the world we live in now. And it's gone to such an extent that everything's an SUV. Even cars are SUVs. It's either a big SUV, a medium SUV, or a small SUV. Wagons are gone. They're virtually a thing of the past. You see a few hangers on, but that's it. And otherwise, it's just the whole world is about SUVs. And I find it disgusting and revolting. And, there was a time when Americans drove wagons, station wagons, like this one. And I think that was just a much better time for us. These were very successful cars for the Chrysler Corporation. In 55 through 57, well, 57 it changed, but 55, 56. And that can all be pinned on a guy named Virgil Exner, okay? If you go back, Chrysler was run by engineers, but they weren't really paying their designers anything. So they had these dowdy looking cars that were actually very good, solid cars, but nobody wanted them because they didn't look cool. Well, that led to basically financial ruin. In 1954, Chrysler had to get a $250 million loan, if I read that right. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems like an awful lot of money for the time, from Prudential. I guess this was the days before the government bailed people out. So Chrysler got this loan. They went out and they hired Virgil Exner, who had this sort of very difficult career, making his way up through the ranks. He went to Notre Dame, but he couldn't keep paying tuition. He was doing he drew advertisements for. I think it was Willys or something he drew, and eventually he'd been hired to be the designer at Pontiac, before they were just a rebad Chevrolet. He came up with that. But he'd had a very long and storied career without any great success. But then Chrysler hired him when they needed to change, and change they did. And he came out with what was called the forward look. And that was a big deal. It was very aero. Very low roof line, tail fins, long deck, long hood, short deck. And it worked out really well in such a way that the other companies were thrown for a loop. The guy just nailed the right car at the right time. Prior to 55, Chrysler just made junk, but not junk, good cars, but just boring. 56, out came something that looked like this. People noticed, they started buying it. When GM designer, a guy named Chuck Jordan, he looked through a fence thanks to a tip he had received, and he looked at Chrysler's soon-to-be launched 57 lineup that had been designed and executed by Virgil Exner, and he freaked out, and he immediately called Harley Earl, who was the styling chief, and said, look, man, I know we closed the designs on all the 57, 58, 59 GM products, but you got to open them up again, because we got to make some changes if we're going to keep up with Chrysler. And that's what they did. And so Exner had this tremendous impact on all cars styling from 1956 onward. And you come around to today, and he's just considered the guy who absolutely the tail fin. He loved the aero look. He loved the tail fin look. And you get into a 59 Cadillac with those giant fins. Well, you can pretty much trace that back to Virgil Exner. And it wasn't just American cars. He had coordinated with Chrysler did these sort of bespoke models where they collaborated with the Europeans, and he had collaborated with the guy who created Ghia, the design house that would ultimately be tasked with creating the Karmann Ghia. And the Karmann Ghia was heavily based on some of Exner's early designs, so much so that when it came out, the people responsible sent him the first Ghia that was released in Michigan as a thank you, for helping them design. He didn't really get official credit for it, but undoubtedly he did help design it. So he was a tremendous American designer, engineer. His cars, the Chrysler 300s at the time, they competed with Rolls-Royce. We were not talking, these were serious cars, and he had a hand in all of them, and was a tremendous guy. So I tell you what, I'm choking, so I'm going to pause it there for a minute. Then we're going to have a look around this car, under the hood, in the back, inside, then go for a quick spin. Like I said, this would be a short video. Hold on one moment. All right, so let's take a quick look at this thing. Again, the styling, it still today looks terrific to me. You've got those tail fins in the back. You've got sort of a short haunched roofline, definitely lower than what Chrysler had before. You've got a swooping curvature down the side of the car with this attractive two-tone look with the pale yellow, the charcoal, and then the white roof. The look that Exner created just absolutely took off. The wheel covers look great, door handles. We'll have a look under the hood. And, this is kind of interesting. And again, it's sort of tough to research because stuff changed quite a bit back then. This is what was called a Super Red Ram. 1956 only, as far as I can tell. 315 roughly cubic inches, a little over 200 horsepower. Basically used some of the same stats as the Hemi engine, the D500 engine that was released at the same time, but not quite as peppy and potent. The D500 was a way to get the cars into NASCAR and was their hot rod motor. This was the second down the line, still very, very peppy, still torquey, but not, not total performance oriented. A great engine for this thing. It could have come with V6s, if it had been unlucky. So it's good that it had the V8, and that has made it. Could have been a push-button torque flight automatic, but this one got the 3 on the tree, the 3-speed manual, which is is what it is, nice and sporty. But so anyway, there it is. The motor looks pretty good, very original under the hood. I love that windshield washer bag, It has been restored, but not hugely. That intake, the water pump, all that is still original. The valve covers, looks like they sprayed the air cleaner, but that's it. You know, this car has maintained quite a bit of its originality. The you know, fan looks good, the radiator looks good, and just interesting that it's a 1-year only engine, you know, the Super Red Ram, and Dodge was just going through a lot of changes at the time. So anyway, there it is, looking proper. Love the big V, the chrome, the twin swoops up on the top of the hood, the differentiated color, the rear view that sits on the fender with the antenna, the round lights, the big chrome bumpers with the bumperettes, and you know, it's a terrific looking car, and of course that's why it sold well, and you know, that's why this body style ended up taking the world by storm. You get to the back, man, what a tailgating machine. People know not to call me. Push these guys down. You pull that back, and you've got quite a tailgater. Now, there was an option where you could have had rearward-facing seats in this thing, which would have made it, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 passenger, maybe 9, which, again, goes back to what wagons were before the SUV craze took over. But, I mean, if you want to go to the local football game and tailgate, what a neat piece this would be to do it in. You can see those segmented taillights. They look really cool. Everything was rockets and fins with Exner. That was his look, and it just looks absolutely terrific. Love all the big chrome hinge structure, and you know, I don't know. It's just, what a shame what we lost to go to the SUV. What an absolute shame. Get into the back seat. Your Canadians are going to be pretty chipper back here. You can fit 3 across. You got good leg room. You got little grippity grips to hold on to. You got an ashtray here because, of course, people smoked in 1956. And, you know, everything nice. A weird little vent windows on the back of that thing. I haven't seen those on another car, and they're kind of neat. And I'm having trouble getting them back in. There it is. But, you know, very utilitarian, and what a terrific family vehicle. Up front, you've got a bench seat, 3 across, very comfy. You know, you can see the dash is so unique, so different from anything we have today. Bunch of gauges, full gauges of this thing. You got fuel, amps, oil pressure, temp. You know, the only thing it's missing really is a tack, and just everything looking terrific. So I tell you what, I'm going to pause there for a minute, get all my crap back in the car, then we're going to hop in and go for a spin. So bear with me. Alright, so let's hop in and go for a drive. Love these big clunky door handles, nice pull. That's matched here on the inside with more, and you know, everything is nice and tight and together and well kept and well made, and you can see that, you know, America in the 50s definitely had its shit together. Love the 3 pedals on the bottom. So alright, so put the e-brake on. Let's do that, put it in neutral and give this thing a fire up. Man, I mean, this thing just runs terrific. It's so happy to be running. And again, like the interstate ride this morning really showed me that this car was just, you know, the fellow who passed away, the gentleman, you know, I'm dealing with the kid of the guy who owned this car. And he just must have dialed this thing into absolute perfection as a driver, because far and away, best old driving car I've ever been in. Anyway, you can see it's got this giant wheel, you know, very traditional. No power steering, which was an option, but they didn't take it. And, you know, the guy's grandmother was driving this. These women must have had arms like Popeye, man. I mean, oh my God, how did they do it? But they did it. So here you've got a grandmother driving a 3 on the tree with no power steering. You gotta give credit where it's due. God bless her. Horn works great. Nice big potent horn. There's the gauges I'm talking about. So here's your light control, your amps, your fuel, your oil pressure, your temperature. This is a blank gauge, and of course here, what an ashtray. Look at that. is really cool. So ashtray designed as a gauge. You got an AM radio that he added an AudioVox FM to that I don't know how to work. This is the controls for the radio. Here's your washers and wipers and vent controls. You got a I can't do that one-handed, but you got a great little glove box here with one of these little service reminder add-on mirror things that's kind of cool. I got a great set of documents with the car. Here's some of them. Here's photographs of the restoration over the years, and you know, all the stuff it got. Kind of neat. Some of the older documents with the car as well. There's the wagon, there's the owner's manual, paint ID numbers, bunch of different stuff there. And there it is, Maud, is it Maud? Yeah, Peters, State College, PA, original owner, and that was the fella's grandmother or something. So that's just neat to have still retained all this stuff. There's more title copies. Here's a Holiday House Motel in Indiana. And here's another motel, Heart of the Lake region. So it's just neat. This is all history, man. And it's just cool. But anyway, let's go for a spin. So to do that, I got my foot on the clutch. I'm coming back and down. That should be first gear. Get rid of the e-brake, and away we go. I saw Peter already this morning, so I'm not going to bother closing his gate. I think that's going to get me in some trouble, but the hell with it. Love the rearview mirror, which, you know, almost frameless. Very, very nice. And man, just what a great driving piece. So let's do this. You see what I'm talking about here? All right, so there's first. Very easy shift to second. Lovely. Third. Perfect. I mean, you know, this thing is just absolutely dialed in. Look at my hand there. Zero vibration on the wheel. We're doing about 45 now. I got up to 70 on the highway. Still zero vibration. So somehow these big white walls are just very nicely dialed in and don't vibrate, which, you know, again, compared to every other old car that I've driven, never mind going back to the 50s, we're talking about going back to the 70s, this thing drives better than all of them, man. Just what a nice driving car. Holy shit. What is that helmet she's wearing? That woman is dead rabbits. So here it is. So, I mean, you know, look, I feel like Ward Cleaver on my way, you know, to go pick up a yard implement or something at the local hardware store. I mean, this is 50s Americana at its best. And again, very few wagons got preserved, you know. A lot of the coupes, convertibles did, that sort of thing. Wagons were all used up. So to find one in really good condition is definitely a rarity and very, very neat. So, all right, let's see if I can get back into first here. I am. We'll get out around these cars. I don't know what kind of construction they got going here. I mean, look at that. It's smooth as silk. Showing 8,000 miles on the odometer. I presume that's 108, and I also presume that's very much accurate and original. Signals work. What a great cruiser. So, you know, there you go. I mean, if you're looking for something remarkably unique that really harkens to a different time in American history, you're going back to 56, you're talking Eisenhower and Suez Canal type shit. I mean, this is way back, man, way back. But what a great car to have to pull to the, you know, car show or tailgating at the football game, or, I mean, what a conversation piece. And from the feel of things, it's just so nicely dialed in. I suspect all you're going to want to do is change the oil and keep it lubed and have yourself a hell of a nice old classic to drive around. So Anyway, there it is. Short video as promised. 1956 Dodge Custom Sierra Wagon. Thank you very much for having a look. Really, really appreciate it. We're going to keep the ball rolling. I'm going to keep updating stuff over on X, and we will see you with the next one. Take care.